Hi there, welcome to the Noah Presgrove case. Today we focus in on Kaden Pressy and his encounter with witnessing the likes of Mikey Lair and Brylan Sweat switching places where they were once sleeping between 2:42 a.m. Monday morning, September 4th, 2023 to 5:15 in the morning. I'm applying it to a map analysis style this time round with additional timestamps afterwards and in between, just to show what had gone on at the time and with evidence and proof. That I've got it colour coded that the markers in blue will signify what supposedly happened. The red markers are backed up by solid hard evidence, screenshots, Snapchats, post overlays with timestamps. And you will be seeing that today. I'm going to be doing something a little bit special today, which I've never done before, kind of experimental, but thankfully it has worked, is where I have been able to attach the photos to the Google Earth Map project. So whilst I'm narrating over the map, I can click on one of the markers and the photo will show up too. Hopefully the aspect ratio is okay, but still a work in progress. If it does work out really well, I can always apply it in the future and for other cases and previous ones like Kenny Veach. So it should be quite good today. It's about using any updated things, what we found along the way, information, intel, backing up the Kaden Pressy 2:42 in the morning call by the likes of Alicia, at least that ringing true, no pun intended there. And then work off from that. Is it normal for Mikey and Brylan to switch places? Considering the time period of Kaden's timeline of 2:42 to 5:15, those two times when Kaden was woken up, nothing in between. You can see there's a big gap in between where anything could have happened at any point. The more lenient and open the gap is, the more it might make sense to certain events that happened in between, which could explain possible movement. And I'll be comparing, contrasting with that. Just wanted to set the record straight and clear so you know what to expect today. Welcome to those watching the live premiere. Share your thoughts, reactions in the live chat box on the right hand side of the screen there. If you are watching later and or on catch up, be sure to drop your comments and additional thoughts and questions, if you've got any, under the video, and then I can respond back later. It'll help with spreading awareness too and push the videos out there so more people get to see it. If you're interested in previous coverage and additional videos on this case by me, you will find the full playlist top right corner screen where the eye symbol is up there. And if you want to support the channel, down below in the pinned comment by me there will be a PayPal link. Big shout out to one individual in recent time, you know who you are in the background. With that all being said, we're going to kick things off straight away and get onto the maps. Here we are. So just the additional context is down below this box isn't directly a part of the timeline. It's just more of a little calculation in regard to when Noah had walked away, how likely he would be away for, and then how likely around the time of when a supposed search would have been conducted for Noah, and how it could well link in with Brylan and Mikey, possibly to some extent, and if not that, other things in between. It's about breaking it down bit by bit. So first of all, 2:42 in the morning, Monday, Kaden Pressy woken up. I've kept it brief in the description of these markers because I can only fit so much on the screen. The main reason why Kaden Pressy woken up at this time of 2:42 is because that's the time when Alicia had called him to make the announcement of Kaden's cousin, known as Georgia, was on the way back home or close to making it home by the hands of Alicia and Melissa, mother to Georgia. But in doing so, when Kaden was woken up at the time in the party house, when looking about him, whilst he mentioned the likes of Noah, Jack, and Jasmine at the beer pong table, also highlighted that Mikey Lair was resting as well, like Kaden, like Brylan, like Isaac. Mikey was on the floor, I guess limited space. Brylan Sweat was on a couch. However, you compare 2:42 to 5:15 down here. Kaden Pressy woken up by Jack Newton, supposedly, amidst the announcement of Noah's death, bursting through the door. And whilst Kaden's looking about, he notices, when waking up the other guys, who were still asleep, surprisingly, despite the loud bang sound of the door, Kaden noticed now Brylan was on the floor and Mikey was on the couch. But what about in between? Well, we've got a couple of markers, haven't we? And that's why we're here. And just to reinforce it so you get a bit of an idea of the visual sense, it's in red because it's a fact. I know Tim Daniel has mentioned, Tim Daniel had mentioned about, was it 2:42? Was it 3 in the morning? Which one's correct? Police interview or partners in true crime? And to be honest, it maybe in some areas, the partners in true crime interview could be more truthful than the police interview. And that's a little bit worrying, is it not? In terms of the timing of when Kaden may have gone back to sleep, that's still unknown of. But when woken up for the very first time, when we click on this, give me a second. Can you see that photo there? That's what I can click on. I've added it myself. This is the equivalent of when we've gone to places on the map. We've looked at a hotel, a motel, Burger King's, Little Caesars, all those dodgy analyses that I've done in the past. You'd have user reviews and user uploaded photos. It's the same style here, but I think this might be more private because it is my own project, hopefully. Now, I can't zoom in, but maybe you can see clear enough. If not, maybe I could change the aspect ratio afterwards. Work in progress at this moment. This is, or at least was, Alicia's mobile phone at the time, and presented by her. It shows her call logs, the date and time. And where you see highlighted in yellow, the yellow ones, key coded, are Kaden Pressy, as in Alicia calling Kaden Pressy, who was at the party. You look at the date and time, obviously significant. So, yeah, the 9th, the 4th, the 9th month, September, the 4th day, which would be Monday morning, 2023, at 2:42 a.m. That is when Alicia had called Kaden Pressy in regard to Georgia making it back home, driving her back home. If you wanted to go one before that, at 1:51 in the morning, highlighted in blue, that's a call made by Alicia towards Melissa. Melissa is the mother to Georgia. And the reason why that call was made at 1:51 is because earlier there was at least 2 calls made almost back to back from 1:40 to 1:43. The reason why Alicia did that is because she noticed on her tracker or app, posted onto Messenger to show Kaden that you're not with Georgia, and I asked you to after her being sick earlier at 12:48 a.m. That Alicia wanted Kaden to follow her around to make sure she was safe and no one took photos of her. Kaden Pressy obviously was doing other stuff or was resting, abandoning Georgia. Not that it was Kaden's fault, because Kaden wasn't anticipating Georgia to come on down. It was yet another responsibility added on to Kaden, right? So it made Alicia worry and think, well, if you're not calling, you're not responding, then I'll have to come down myself. And that's when direct action was taken with Melissa, the mother. So they both went on down at the highway. At what time at the highway? Well, some have said at 3:15 in the morning, waiting down the highway to flag and pick them up or to pull them aside in the friend's sister's car. You know, pull aside, we'll exchange, get you out, come in mine, and we'll take you back properly, take you home safely. That's just like a rough summary that I'm not directly including it in this video because that's to do with the highway, that's to do with further away. That's actually to do with before Noah had walked away as well. the point and purpose of today's video is not about Noah's death. It's not directly about the cause of death or the time. It's more so to do with people of interest, not officially, who were at the party around the time, and movement and activity, to try and explain and wonder when Kaden mentions about Brylan and Mikey moving around, is it suspicious or can it be simply explained with some common sense? And it's just important to reinforce why the 2:42 in the morning timestamp of when Kaden was woken up at that time, because Alicia had called him, it was at that time and it's proven on screen. This is simple shit that should have been done in the past. It just wasn't available or as accessible, and that's why it's being done now. So if I just close that down, the next thing to highlight, whilst yes, the next one I say is 2:40, that should actually be before 2:42, but I did also say /3 in the morning onwards, because it incorporates the shower. And as for the side-by-side rollover, the after effects, Kaden had mentioned that, well, the photo that he saw from a video, which was shown to him by another person at a later date, well, that said 2:40 in the morning. But was that 2:40 in the morning from the original footage, or was it 2:40 in the morning when that individual decided to take a screenshot from the video and then pass it on to Kaden, and you get the wrong time, not the original? So then Kaden is fed possible misinformation and just goes with it because he thinks that's the truth, which would be very unfortunate. And the reason why we doubt the 2:40, besides the point of it's just hearsay, what Kaden says, we haven't seen the hard evidence, we haven't seen the side-by-side rollover after effects or the flip over or tipping it back over on its all wheels. We've not seen that. We've not seen a timestamp attached to it. So it's just hearsay. But furthermore, the reason why we doubt it is because it's hard to believe at 2:42, which is proven as a fact now, as said, because of the photo here of the call made. Hopefully, Kaden wouldn't be making it up about when he was consciously awake at that time. He did see Noah, he did see Jack, he did see Jasmine at the beer pong table. If they were there and Kaden saw them, then that should be okay and stable. Do we have evidence, photos and proof of what Kaden saw? No, we only have evidence and proof of the time of when he was woken up. We would just hope that he's consistent in what he says about who was in his line of sight at the time at the party house. And with that being in mind, if you dial it back to 2:40, a time difference of 2 minutes. So side-by-side rollover after effect just at 2:40. It takes 2 minutes for Noah to dust himself off, run back into the house, and then play or stand near the beer pong table with Jack and Jasmine like nothing ever happened, with no consideration of, I must have a wash because I'm a dirty individual, I need cleaning, I might have blood on my face. It's very hard to believe the rollover occurred 2 minutes before Kaden was woken up, with what Kaden saw with Noah being in the house. So that's the reason. 3 in the morning onwards is the possible outcome, maybe, for timing of other things, and side by side, you never know. The shower as well is highlighted in blue because whilst there might be evidence out there publicly on the surface level, it does not exist at this moment, so I can't show you a photo a part of it. 3:30, the same there. We don't have CCTV footage, we don't have a timestamp like hard evidence. We've just been told over and over again, but it's at 3:30 when Noah leaves. 3:41 a.m. is when Jasmine Millan did a snap about Noah missing. And as for that time of announcing it, about 11 minutes after Noah had walked away, within a reasonable time frame, it's backed up with evidence because once again, we've got the photo here, which is great. And it's outside at the party house front porchway, just outside of the door. 3:41, well, Noah is missing. Of course, Jasmine smiling and laughing there Is it a bad thing that Noah is missing? In the context at the time, it's not a bad thing. Because of what Kaden Pressy has said in the past, it's normal for Noah to walk away. To announce that Noah is missing from a party via Snapchat, if it's a public snap, is it a group snap? Is it just to say, oh, look, Noah's missing out. He's nowhere to be seen. Once again, how typical. My only question would be, besides this Snapchat post by Jasmine, has it been done any other time in the past, or was this like a one-off? If it was a one-off, is there a little bit more questioning behind it? But besides that, it's just to reinforce visually the timestamp, right? Announcing Noah is missing. How long did it take until people realised maybe action needs to be taken because things are a little bit off or don't seem quite right? Closing that down. Well, we jump ahead to 4:30 a.m. with Carter Combs' Logan Jernigan snap. And this is supposedly, it's been said supposedly, but it's near the doorway of the party house to symbolise getting back to the house, getting back in, taking a quick snap after searching for Noah. If that's the true context, just after searching for Noah, and we'll fill in the blanks in between, just to reinforce with hard evidence. Hopefully you can see clear enough. You can see the door frame or so and a possible window with a hinge on, possibly, around the back. Me personally, I interpreted it originally that this was actually in the kitchen dining area because of the wood in the background, the hard wood, and then the cabinets. The colouring of it does look like the kitchen, not the doorway. But that's what other people have said. I'm just relaying it onto you. But one thing that is clearly visible and does not lie is the people within the shot, the selfie taken. Logan Jernigan on the right, Carter Combs on the left. What Logan is wearing there is important to the later snap, what you'll see with Mikey, because it's the same colour clothing. Terrell, Oklahoma, September 4th, 2023 at 4:30 a.m. And if they have supposedly got back, they're not exactly smiling, which, you know, just posing for the camera, pouting the lips, normal, no harm done. But it does help, whether they're appearing to look sad or somewhat neutral, because they're not smiling in this moment, with the context of just coming back after searching for Noah, it seemed like a normal reaction in a way. You get what I'm saying? Like, if you went searching for your best friend and you were worried enough to go searching, no success yielded. You got back to the house, then you decided to take a photo and you were like smiling or laughing. It's like, how do you go from being so worried to searching for someone, not being successful in finding them, to then returning back to take a happy photo like nothing ever happened? Just doesn't make sense. You could still put the argument across and say, well, whether they're smiling, laughing, crying, why are they taking a selfie at a time like this with what's going on? Because they're not going to know the full context at the time or the full severity. Maybe there's like a phase or a wave, and I'm not talking about Michael Fay's Days Kaz with 300,000 emails. I'm just talking about there's a process to it, and not with him. Not a process to getting black belts, not a process to entering the dojo, but actually a process with Carter and Logan and their reasoning ability at the time when it comes down to, right, Noah has been missing for some time now. Probably should go out searching just in case. It's getting a bit later than usual. We can't find him. Okay. Well, has he done this before? The odd occasion in the past. Maybe he got a lift home. Maybe he's laying elsewhere. Maybe he's hiding. If Noah has done it the odd few times in the past, people that remember it from the party and previous ones may bring that up in conversation as a form of reasoning ability, coping mechanism to say, you know what, we can't find him, but it's not the end of the world because this has happened in the past. It's probably happening again, although not often or common. It can happen. It can be possible. So in the meantime, we'll just take a selfie, Snapchat post. Why not? It's a party. Age they are, gender they are. normal thing, normal activity to do. And to be honest, the argument you could put across, if you were suspicious of this Snapchat post because of the context and the way they're posing, if you wanted to attack, question, or go deeper with Jasmine Milan's Snapchat post as well, even if these posts were really dodgy and insensitive, I'm not saying that they are, but if they were, is it really the end of the world? Isn't it not a good thing that these people, for other reasons, who have documented these timestamps, which have been made public eventually, which have then enabled us to use as material to back up, reinforce, or debunk other stuff against them or for them? So in their own doing, they've helped the general public in terms of what you see and then the timing of when it occurred. So that's at 4:30. 5:15, Kaden Pressy, second time woken up. The last time, Jack Newton bursting through the door. Brylan Sweat on the floor, Mikey Lair on the couch. But how long was Mikey on the couch for if it was at 5:15? This is where there is conflict, as in, if it wasn't 5:15 of when Kaden was woken up by Jack and Brylan, and it was more so 6:15 or 6 in the morning onwards, Mikey could well be, wherever he needs to be. As for Brylan, though, would that apply to him too? We'll get to that a bit later. As you can see, I tend not to include cross-conflict timelines within to one by different people, but this was just an exception to work with and about. Because at 5:27 a.m, when from Kaden's point of view, Kaden is with Mikey, Brylan and Isaac at the highway. Well, at 5:27, Mikey was actually still at the party house, completely, from the looks of it, oblivious and unaware to the news of Noah's passing. This, from appears to be a fact, because when you click on it, there is a photo to back it up, and not just one, but two. I'm using this photo in particular. There is another photo where they're on the side, but it's more blurred out, it's not as clear. And this one clearly shows that they are awake, more so Mikey, importantly, with his eyes open. I know it might be difficult to see it on screen just because Google won't allow me to zoom in manually. But, you've seen my previous videos, I have analysed this before. And I said Logan with her blue top or shirt on, same one what you saw earlier at 4:30, which just once again reinforces the consistency of those timestamps and much more. That whilst they're in bed, Mikey has obviously changed spot at 5:27. And we move on to this one, you can see the timestamp a bit clearer. September 4th, 2023, 5:27 a.m. Does this link, though, with Kaden Pressy in any way besides the whole, well, Mikey was actually here, Mikey was there, or the emotions behind it of hearing the news? Besides those obvious ones, it still doesn't link with Kaden Pressy, because Kaden said, basically at 2:42, Mikey's on the floor, Brylan's on a couch. At 5:15, a few hours passing by, Mikey is on the couch, Brylan's on the floor. That's at 5:15. Well, this is 5:27. It's like a game of musical chairs. Okay, so Mikey goes from floor at 2:42 to couch at 5:15 to then supposedly in a bed of whom's, I'm not too sure, 5:27. Mikey's constantly moving about. Restless? Well, the thing is, how it's been worded, Kaden has worded it that from 2:42 to 5:15, Mikey, for most part of it, was pretty much asleep, with the occasion of getting up possibly to switch places with Brylan or do something. But for most part of it, asleep. Maybe at the start when going to sleep, Kaden may have mentioned that the guys were resting and not completely asleep. That's one possible keyword to take in mind. As for Jack Newton, well, Jack Newton, whether it be directly from his mouth or others on behalf of him on Facebook, I do have the marker in blue because I don't know if it's a true fact. and I've not seen hard evidence, and that's why I've kept it as it is. I just wanted to make it very clear to you. Supposedly Jack Newton may have said that at 5:30, or someone on behalf of him, a friend, 5:30 is when Jack actually woke up. 5:53 is when Jack, I guess, truly got out of bed and started getting ready for the day with his father Caleb, supposedly. But whilst that may have been mentioned, and I believe probably more so by Jack actually, Partners in True Crime interview, the last one done in the past, in which Robin and Ashley Chadwick were listening to that pre-recorded interview with Partners in True Crime and Jack Newton. When Jack Newton made the time reference of 5:30 when waking up, or when Jasmine woke Jack up to tell Jack about the news with Noah not being about, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's how it was worded. Well, Ashley and Robin cut in and said, no, it wasn't 5:30, it was actually 5 in the morning. But nevertheless, in that interview, Jack said that, I spoke to Mikey, and Mikey was still awake, as in he never went to sleep. And at least at 5:27 in the morning, Mikey was awake and may have remained awake all the time. So my question could be, if anyone knows, from 2 in the morning onwards up to 5:15 or 6:15 upon the announcement of Noah's death, in between that time frame, how many of the party goers actually went to sleep? Because it seems like Kaden Pressy did go to sleep, even if he's got his times mixed up of when at least the announcement of Noah's death came about. The 2:42 timestamp seems to be solidified now with hard evidence, which is a start, is it not? That's a positive. But onwards, past that point, Kaden, the only one who was properly asleep and did not participate with others. However, if there is a video piece and footage of the after effects of the side-by-side rollover and people possibly assisting in rolling it back over properly, and if Kaden was somewhat present in that footage, I know it's hard to believe, but that's what the supposed rumours have been. If any of that came true, depending on the timing, that could undo some of the timeline further, but we'll have to wait and see with that. Can't go too deep into it at this moment because there's not much to work with. But if it is true based off my mindset that Jasmine Milan, from my memory, that Jasmine Milan woke Jack up at 5:30 or 5 in the morning to announce about Noah not present, nowhere to be seen, why didn't Jasmine do it earlier? Is it just because they thought it wasn't a big deal earlier on, that other partygoers and friends could just go out searching themselves? They didn't want to disturb awake Jack in case it was a false call, false alert. And then after the search being done and coming back at 4:30, with time ticking away, something's not quite right. Maybe we'll tell Jack Newton, Noah's best friend, about it to see what he thinks. Now, was it at 5:30 when Jack Newton responded back with, Noah's probably in a field somewhere. He could be laying down. He might come back when it gets too warm. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is just from my memory. I'm trying to keep it basic with the timeline at least here for it. But to move back down to this point, Kaden Pressy, in one of the interviews, or somewhere at least online, Kaden, in his words, said that in the past it was normal for Noah to get drunk. If there was a bit of tension, conflict, he would walk away to cool off, not to cause a scene, and he could be away for up to 30 minutes, and then he would return back to the party. Well, the same could have happened here. At least the intent behind it, up to 30 minutes. Now, if it's true that Noah did walk away at 3:30, we don't know for certain, but if he did at 3:30, and he's gone for 30 minutes, and that's deemed as acceptable and normal behaviour, Round it up, you add it all up, it'll be 4 in the morning, wouldn't it? 4 in the morning. And then if that's Snapchat, which is true based off the timestamp of 4:30 of Logan and Carter Combs, if that is taken just once they've got back to the house amidst, previously searching for Noah, attempting to, well, that means from 4 in the morning of when a search started to coming back is about a 30-minute search. Would a 30-minute search make sense? Well, to be honest, if it involves the likes of some of the partygoers, the girls, and if Texas boys did go searching, but I think, didn't Robin Smith say something about no Texas boys went searching? I think that might have come up. I don't know what that's all about. Searching where? Down the highway. Why would they do that? Well, they would be going in the direction east in the first place because there was at least one witness, maybe, I guess, Logan, from what Jack says, witnessed Noah walking east. You don't know where he is. Well, let's go east. Let's walk down. Let's drive down. Where's he at? Is he near the house? Is he behind the tree? Is he at that other property? No. Is he here? No. Highway? Maybe. Why would it be the natural instinct to go north? He could have gone the other way. He could have tried walking to the town of Terrell, possibly for a ride to the store. I don't even know if it would be open at that time, but who knows. The reason why naturally people could go north to search and go so far down is just because that's the way you would go and the way you come down. As in, if you're leaving, you'd be going north for Noah to get back to his place of living. Now, it's been said by BBC, Brookbound Carter, is that this sand plank crossing here, as you see there, opposite to that road what turns down that way, which Kaden supposedly did, the back road, because round here is where it was blocked off, supposedly, or where it would have been blocked off, at least. Now, Noah was found further down round this area here, on the hard shoulder area. So, if phones did ping round this part by party goers or whoever had their phones with them at the time to communicate and whatnot, it wouldn't really matter. It wouldn't really be that suspicious because as long as your phone pings near and not on top of the spot, well, then you can't be linked to Noah's death, or at least linked to where he was found at, because if your phone never pinged at the actual spot, it only pinged beforehand, you're not going to get questioned as much. But, of course, you could still be seen as a person of interest just down to the proximity and location. I mean, okay, with Jack Newton's situation, phone pinging near, much closer to the spot where Noah's body was found at, further leading to questioning a follow-up polygraph test, which is understandable. But a second phone ping over in that area, which I think some people online have said Carter Combs. I don't know how true that is. If so, would it be at the same time as when Jack's phone pinged over that way, or what? And what would be the likely chances that if it was down to a poor signal for Jack, it was the same for Carter? If it's the same for more than one person, then it should be the same for Tyler Hardy, who tried making a call at 5:46 in the morning, which turned out to be static due to a bad signal. If you're in that area where there's a bad signal that possibly pings elsewhere, but then again, for someone like Jack Newton, down to a bad signal which incorrectly pinged to an area where he wasn't at, supposedly, which is the spot of Noah's body, well then, where was Jack at that time? What spot was he at for the phone to have a bad signal? At the party house? On site of the property? Somewhere else on the highway? Does anyone know? If you do, just leave a comment down below, possibly that could help. Let's get some water, it's a little bit dry. So, yeah, a search being done. Not a long one, because you can only go so far down the highway and then you'd be thinking, well, how much further do we need to go down? Would it have made a difference, though? Well, if we're saying from 4 in the morning onwards, when a search was possibly done for about 30 minutes or so, roughly, We don't ultimately know the official time of death, but it has been mentioned by Jack Newton, who may have relayed it on from police, but the context of the cropped screenshot by a screenshot expert man in the background, as we are aware of, just in context, or more so lacking, it makes you think that if Jack was told that by police, an estimate, fair enough, not that dodgy. If Jack is saying it from his own words, then it's a little bit more questionable, because then how would you know? You'd have to be there yourself to witness to know the time. So because it's lacking context, you can't go all in, but you can at least show the balanced alternatives of reasoning. But if it was 4 a.m. when Noah had passed away, and if it's normal for within 30 minutes of Noah walking away, in the 30-minute period of being absent from somewhere, 30 minutes on to 4 a.m, when he possibly passed away, have to have been at the highway, because at 4 a.m. would mean people start getting ready to go out searching, possibly, to fit that time frame period. So based off that, 4 a.m. passing away, at the highway already, just before the actual area, the first Sandplank crossing, if the searchers went on further, likely they would have come across Noah's body. Would the outcome have been any different? Would it be in the same position right now? Would it have been cleared up? Would it have debunked? Would it have made more people innocent? Or would it have added more complexity towards the case if the searchers went further north to where Noah's body was at? How would they react? Would they have called police? These are all scenario-based questions which didn't happen but could have if different action was taken. Making it back to the party house, in terms of all the searchers, that would be the first point of progress. Texas boys were supposedly searching for Noah. Question: how many Texas boys were searching for Noah? Secondly, out of the familiar names and faces what we've heard of, the girls, the other guys, friends to Noah, how many of them were searching for Noah Presgrave alongside Texas boys? Brylan, what was Brylan doing? What was Mikey doing? What was Isaac doing? What was Kaden doing? It seems somewhat clear that Kaden was likely asleep, so that rules him out. What was Jack doing though? Well, if Jack was woken up by Jasmine at 5:30 or even 5 a.m. to announce the news of, well, Noah's missing, what's going on there? Then clearly Jack must have been asleep before that as well. If Jack wasn't asleep before that and he was awake earlier on, well then Jasmine might as well have told Jack earlier on then instead of telling him later. And for as long as you're awake at the party house around the relevant time of when a search has been conducted or that's been planned, likely you're going to overhear it, or likely you're going to join on in, or likely they're going to ask you to help. So for Jack to be unaware to that news and what's previously gone on as for a search, to be told later would mean likely he was asleep earlier, at least based off common sense. So it seems to rule out Kaden and Jack there. So what? Avery Combs, Avery Howard, same person. Carter Combs, Logan Jernigan, Jasmine Millan, Stephanie Millan. I don't know about Stephanie Millan, because as we heard, based off Caden's timeline, that at whatever time onwards, and I mean later on, when Renee Millan, Jasmine Millan's mother, came to the party house, Kaden had mentioned that Stephanie Millan returned. So it meant Stephanie Millan had left earlier the party with a boyfriend as well. But at what time? To understand at what time they had left, was it before or after the search was conducted for Noah Presgrove at 4 a.m. onwards? Does anyone know? If you can answer it down below, that would be appreciated. Who else? Any other guys, possibly? I mean, of course, I know we're focusing or should be on Mikey and Brylan, but it's just a part of it all, this. working it out on the spot, justifying each supposed action and the timing behind it. See, this is what I mean. Based off Kaden's timeline, that you're dealing with 2:42 in the morning, Mikey on the floor, Brylan on the couch, and they are asleep. Then at 5:15, they've switched places, but they're still asleep because Kaden said he had to wake them up. It means at a time, an unrecorded time of when Kaden was asleep, in between 2:42 to 5:15, at some point Brylan and Mikey had switched places. But did they switch places just for the sake of that, or did they switch places because of things happening in between? So it would have to be before 5:15. 2:42 up to 5 in the morning, 4 in the morning. You see how wide it is as to when one or both could have woken up. Well, let's just have a closer look. What events could have correlated or justified Mikey or Brylan waking up? I mean, if Mikey was never asleep, but he was resting on the floor. So, I mean, you get that conflict with Kaden's mention of Mikey being asleep and Jack saying that Mikey was still awake, as if Mikey never went to sleep at any point on Monday. So who's telling the truth there? Or when Jack says that about Mikey still being awake, is that just based off what Jack can remember? Jack didn't remember seeing Mikey go to sleep, so when he sees him the next time awake, he still thinks, wow, you're still awake after all this time. Who knows? 2:42 and anything before 5:15. Right, okay. So, such as with the shower. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a post by Joyce Burgow, and I think we should probably acknowledge that right now before I go any further, because there is some reasoning ability over there. Read what she's got to say, or summarise, then compare-contrast with these particular events on screen, because we could possibly break and narrow it down to explain why at a certain time it may have led to someone moving about. Like, I know I'm cutting in a bit impetuous, but like the shower. Well, the shower occurred with Noah after 2:42. After 3 in the morning. If it had happened after 3 in the morning, at a time roughly when Kaden supposedly went to sleep, but if it was at 3:20 when Kaden went to sleep, but then the shower thing could be in a bit more of a dodgy area depending how long the shower would take, then the teabagging supposedly, and then the eating the ramen noodles yogurt, and then the bedroom debacle, and then walking away. What I'm trying to get at is, if it's within an appropriate time range of when Kaden woke up, saw what he saw with Brylan and Mikey, then went to sleep shortly after, and then the shower occurred with Noah, and with what Carter Combs has said about, from what she witnessed, that one of Noah's best buddies jumped on in. No name mentioned, but within the community, people have been saying it was Brylan, of all people. Well, then that could explain why Mikey switched places with Brylan to some extent. That Brylan saw as an opportunity, oh, right, I'll go into the shower with Noah, or I'll have a shower now. Oh, Noah's there, I'll join in. Mikey already awake or awakened by Brylan moving about, and Mikey thinks, well, Brylan's, left. The couch is available for me. I ain't sleeping on the floor all this time. I want to rest my back, so I'll go onto the couch now. By the time Brylan makes it back, Brylan's got no choice but to sleep on the floor now. Right? Sounds pretty simple, providing the timing occurs in the right way. It's worth acknowledging. Anything after that, 4:30? Would that be justifiable? Of course, the 5:27 one of Mikey being in a bed, once again moving about again, which is interesting, but We don't need to look too deep into that one because we're basing it off Kaden's 5:15 timeline. Anything that happens before, in between 2:42 to 5:15. We're not including 6:15. If we was including 6:15 at the max, we would compare and contrast with the 5:27 snap. Okay? If I do give an alternative afterwards, I'll try and consider it. But let's just head on over to Facebook, like I said. Here we are. So this is located on the Noah's Ark for Justice page 3 days ago. It does mention some interesting comments as well by the likes of Brenda. Shout out to them. We'll just read it bit by bit. Joy says, okay, so LE has the Snapchat photos of 5:27 a.m. Mikey Lair. I did think at one point the time may have been altered with, but why would those be shared with an altered timestamp if LE has them? It wouldn't make sense. Now with Jack Newton's timeline, it would make more sense of Mikey Lair and Brylan Sweat to have swapped spots. Mikey Lair was in the bed with girls, and it's been said that Brylan Sweat had been out looking for Noah. That's one thing I wasn't actually aware of, if I'll be honest with you, with one of the girls. If that's the case, one of the girls, what were the other girls doing? Were they all searching? Well, if so, it would imply that they parted ways, went in different directions. So, my question once again is, how many of the party goers and who exactly, in terms of names, went searching for Noah? Did they all go in the same direction or did they split up? And where else was searched? Besides the highway, where else? Joy says, I believe that they had probably just went to sleep before Jack came back through the door at the home. As in what time though? 6:15? Jack Newton said Mikey Lair was still awake when he got up. And if Mikey Lair was still awake when he had got up, at the latest of evidence 5:27, which shows Mikey awake in a bed later onwards, still possible. Because it's actually at 5:30 in the morning at least, from what Jack had said himself when he woke up or was woken up, and coming across Mikey a few minutes earlier, before Jack had woken up, Mikey awake. So a few minutes later when Jack had woken up, Mikey's still likely awake. So the timestamp of 5:27 of Mikey visibly with his eyes open, even if he is in a bed, possibly reinforces what Jack says, and what Jack says reinforces the situation with Mikey. So my mention about Brylan and Mikey switching places in a normal way, as in from 2:42 onwards at any given time, such as if Brylan was to go into the bathroom where Noah was, Mikey could have taken it as an opportunity to take place. You know, you've left your post. Brylan's left the the couch, sofa available. Mikey, Mikey, who's on the floor, he's got a free spot now. If he's awake or half awake, take your spot, lay your head to rest on it. So when Brylan gets back, it's like tough shit. That's a possibility. With what Joyce mentions here is about a later possibility, and that is still before 5:15, so it can still come into play amongst the search. Let's just do all the comments, not too many. Alicia, Jack Newton did say that he was asleep, then stated he wasn't, which I find weird. And please don't ask for screenshots from me because it's way too much to go through and I have a life outside of Facebook. Well, many humans have a form of life in different areas, understandably. In this case, with all the screenshots to go through, it all can be quite difficult and troublesome. But if you are passionate, focused, dedicated, or strongly believe in something, sometimes you got to give up a bit of time to try and find out evidence. But the good thing is, along the way, you may come across other people that may have the screenshots more efficiently than you do, and then you've got stuff that they want which they don't have. That is why, when it comes to true crime cases and mystery ones as well, whilst such as with me, I might be the creator, I might be the one on my channel making videos, but along the way the viewers do help a lot when it comes to screenshots, repost, getting a hold of the material a lot quicker compared to if I was to do it all. So that does need to be acknowledged. Alicia says, but if Kaden Pressy said he wasn't asked asleep, gonna post a new Apple information, is that where it is? Then why can't the picture times on Snapchat be posted here? What do you mean? I hope I made sense here. Right. Oh, we got Tim Daniel. The timestamps are correct. I saw the originals unedited, and you know, ever since, if we're talking about the Snapchat post, I've seen the unedited, like the original. The only thing that was edited was just putting like a black circle over the people's faces, because that was a request by those in the background. And it really wasn't the end of the world, because as you saw, the box was kind of like translucent. You could see through it. You could clearly see the people's faces and the eyes were open. So it's all under control there. But nevertheless, adding on with what Tim says, it's silly to think that adult people who can't work Snapchat or altering timestamps, they're not tech savvy. So this leaves no other possibility than Mikey not being in Kaden's vehicle at that time. This destroys Kaden's timeline, and it has many months ago, but nobody wanted to hear it. I'm glad folks are following the evidence finally, rather than hearsay. Of course, evidence will always be important. It just depends if it's available or not publicly. No way Kaden was on the road with Mikey. Photos disprove Kaden's timeline. So moving forward, what does that mean? Well, Kaden's 5:15 timeline was the main reason to think foul play. Without that earlier timeline, we have all things happening as you would expect after the 911 call, not before. I get that, yes. If it was true, the 5:15 timeline, more likely to come across as foul play. Anything after that, later onwards, approaching that time, if not surpassing when the official call was made, not as dodgy. I get that. But let's just see additional responses. Alicia, I wish Mikey would publicly speak up, but is he in a position to do so based off his age, based off his health, psychologically speaking and whatnot? Is it possible? Is he worried, scared? It depends how you look at it. That's what we'll just say for now. Whether he was there at that time with Kaden or not, for example, the highway, for all of us on these groups, it would be clear, it would definitely clear certain stuff up. I also have some of us stop the bickering. Also have to bring up that there are photos that prove a certain timeline. I just have to say that on both sides here, no one could take anyone's word as truth unless there's proof, right? It's literally a bunch of adults bickering, even though there's been no new leads and evidence. Well, to be honest, there has been new possible leads and evidence in terms of progression in the case, trying to understand where people were, what people were doing, reinforcing others, debunking other things, and by the hands of catalyst like Raf, who shared and aired some of the never seen before screenshots, never seen before photos and Snapchat posts. I am the original in terms of posting it, but credit to the people in the background for allowing it to happen. You might get a travesty here, a travesty there, and other people that on other pages, not this one, but other pages elsewhere, that will like to bash and attack and complain at me and my channel and my coverage. Oh, but they're quite okay in taking screenshots from my live chat of my video, from my channel, of some of my viewers, with respect to, viewers can go wherever they want, but they take those screenshots, they post them elsewhere as if it's breaking news that they've discovered it, that they've found it. Bollocks! Absolute bastard bollocks! Sorry, it was a bit too loud there. I was getting a bit too passionate. Sharon, tell me off right now. Sorry about that. So, I can imagine the dogs are barking in the background. But it's just really embarrassing, right? That you've got, people out there taking screenshots whilst complaining beforehand and then claiming it as a first discovery. And it's like, well, we've already witnessed it ourselves on my own channel. When it comes to situations, it's wild. But in regard to Alicia's comment here about no new, well, oh yeah, you know, you can't like take people's word for it with her saying stuff. To be honest, you can't just take the word as truth. Well, with previous cases where I've looked at, like the Dylan Rounds one, I was able to do that without hard evidence. Other people couldn't. Other people got triggered. Some people grasping their pearls, and a couple of other people having a stroke here and there, and not in that sense. When it came to how I went about things, what I listened and believed in, and then at a later point, the hard evidence came out, and then by then, what was said, what was done, was the same and similar and linked to what was said earlier, which was just considered hearsay. You want to take people's word for it. You want to have that trust. But in this case, it's not possible. Give and take. There's certain situations where it can work. Sorry, edited another comment because when I reread what I write, it definitely needs editing. Oh my God, so much editing. Goodness. Now, Tim Daniel says, but there are absolutely photos of Mikey at 5:27 in a bed with his eyes open, yes, and awake exactly as Jack described, which was at least 3 minutes later. So it's supposedly, yeah, it's quite consistent. Mikey was not on the roadside with Kaden at 5:21, nor at 5:27, because the time, yeah. He was in bed and they were all joking around because they had not heard the news yet that their friend had passed, and that makes sense based off the body language, of course. There's no possible way Caden's timeline is correct unless he himself was alone at the roadside, which is fair enough. If Kaden had said he was at the roadside alone, then it would make a bit more sense, but then it would add more questions, wouldn't it, about why were you there at that time and, you know, why did no one else know? Otherwise, the photos of Mikey totally disproves Kaden's timeline and is what many of us had thought all along anyway. I can't understand why people argue still about it when there is zero proof anyone was on the road before the 911 calls. Photos of Mikey and the timestamps to prove that Jack was telling the truth. See, just the only thing that I would highlight is we've not heard it. I mean, we've not seen it visually. But like when Kaden's made a reference, Michael faced Kaz in the past, about highway footage, tampering of Noah's body and the black shorts being removed. Can that ever be reinforced, posted public? Can it ever be debunked properly? That's just the only other thing. Only because if it's at the time what Kaden says, it is before the official call's been made. So it would suggest that there are people there earlier. Mike, well, let me just say this. It would be the dumbest thing anyone could do to alter snaps. For one, police had the photos. Two, they're in the groups. Three, these kids are so smart they had fooled seasoned investigators, forensics, kept the secret between each other, and they're dumb enough to fabricate evidence to appease Facebook bullies? Yeah, I don't think so. That's also why no analysis will be shown of Caden's phone. That would be a big no. That's why it's just been stories, rumours with no evidence. There we go, we got Brenda's comment. Didn't Jack Newton also say that Avery Combs was sitting on the couch when he came back to the house to tell them about Noah Presgrove? Yes. I don't know how true that is, but that's what Jack had said. The only thing that's a big problem, Brenda, as in making a reference to your comment, not the comment being a problem, but what Jack says, what Jack has said about Avery sitting on the couch. The reason why that's a problem is because it doesn't quite link, well, it doesn't link much to Kaden Pressy's account of things. But what's worse is it doesn't really link to Carter Combs either. You know, Carter, the girlfriend to Jack Newton. Whilst Carter may be on side with Jack in the timing, in terms of how things played out and the actions taken in the moment, Carter is more consistent with Kaden. It's crazy, isn't it? And what I mean by that is Jack Newton said he returned back to the house, he calmly walked in, didn't make a big sound or fuss, possibly buried his head into Carter's pillow, cried, lay it out, said what happened, and then was near to a sofa, or sat down on a sofa, And Avery was either resting or just sat there and then asked Jack, what's wrong? And then Jack told her what happened. Kaden and Carter had said that Jack burst through the door announcing the news in like a shouty tone. Bursting through, letting everyone know, not telling each person one by one. So what the hell's going on there? That is an issue. Joy says, yes, I believe he said that as part in true crime interview. Yeah. Caden's interview versus Jack's interview is so telling. One is allowed to edit what they don't want released, and another one is interviewed then critiqued without being there involved in to elaborate his answer or address any questions. Simple explanation. Prime example said Jack was woken up at 5 and he says 5:30. In terms of woken up at 5, I guess by Jasmine then, that's what Robin and Ashley Chadwick chipped in on when countering the 5:30 time. If asked, my guess would be he was woken up, but did he say he got out of bed? No. Rolled back over and slept in the bed up until 5:53 when it was realised, oh, I've overslept. You can wake up, you can drift back off to sleep. And that's what some people did say on my videos in the past, which made sense. Not saying that happened, but just an example. Fair enough. Again, they gave the phones that day, and the GFN's so little things people make a big deal about really aren't what they think. Also, I see barely any pictures of Jack from the night. Pretty telling. So not many photos of him. Pretty telling that he was asleep then. Just like Kaden Pressy. Because we don't actually see any videos or photos of Kaden Pressy, only when Kaden was behind the camera himself. And then after that, I guess when he's asleep. So based off what Mike says here, it's a good observation that you could, just to a slight extent, not completely, you could say who appeared least in the videos and photos at a certain time onwards. Could that explain and justify and reinforce the possibilities that they were obviously asleep out of the way? To some extent, not completely. Anyway, the one of him, Jack, and Noah is by the bathroom. Well, it's actually within the bathroom. Very likely he got up to pee and they took a photo. People said it was at 1:50 in the morning. And Jack had said in the past, I went to sleep at 1 in the morning. People online have said, when the 1:50 timestamp was revealed about Jack and Noah in the bathroom, well, then Jack changed it from 1 in the morning to 2 in the morning to make it sound more believable when going to sleep. That's what people in the community were saying. So many variables of things, including what could have happened on the highway. I don't believe any of those people from the party were out on that road. What? You mean searching or what? Those pings were probably in the area of where Noah was found, not right at his body. Well, Brooke Bounds Carter herself said partygoers and Texas boys assisted the girls in searching about. They went down the highway to the first sand plank crossroad to some extent, where Kaden would have turned off to the right later. At that spot where they went down the highway searching for Noah and then turned back to return back to the house. That's what Brooke Bounds Carter said, or at least what I remember back then. So supposedly partygoers did go down the highway to search and then turn back. So there's that. As would have Kaden's correct. If there was anything not jiving, it would be case closed. Police aren't corrupt. They're the ones that said it didn't look typical and gave an investigation. Okay. Brenda, only 5 young adults gave their phones to Ellie the day after Noah was found. I find it odd that only 5 did. So how many more should have? There's probably several reasons why that is. For example, maybe the others weren't asked to do so. Maybe it doesn't matter to me, but 5 cooperated within 24 hours. I've wondered about if others were asked and refused or weren't asked. It seems like they'd want everyone's. And from Caden's situation, police didn't want Caden's, supposedly. Brenda, Ellie might very well have asked others for their phones. I only know Robin said they turned their phones in the day after Noah was found. My understanding, the ones who did were the young adults that lived at the party house, which would be Avery, Carter, and Logan. Alicia, the age of these partygoers, we all know there were more pictures than we see publicly. I recall seeing a screenshot of someone saying that the pings can be wrong sometimes, but in this case, who doesn't think the pings right there are not suspicious? I always thought it was strange that only certain partygoers were asked to hand over the phones. Public pictures I've seen of the party, I don't think I've seen one of Kaden. So what's your point? Serious question. Not here to bash anyone. Well, to know, we have seen a bit of footage of Jack Newton. It was just on a different day, like Saturday. And maybe because they were the only people still there who attended the party when Ellie came to the party house. I honestly don't know. I think there was another post by Joyce Burgow previously which actually listed the names of the people that were all at the party on the Monday, which would be important. Is that it there? I think so. Okay, well, let's just head back onto the map. So to incorporate a bit of what Joyce was getting at in regard to supposedly Brylan Sweat was searching about, that's interesting. Because it kind of goes against, maybe to an extent, what Kaden was referring to about these guys being the ones asleep. I originally interpreted it as, well, these guys are asleep all the way through, regardless of the timelines of Kaden, that they play no role in anything. But if Brylan Sweat is searching around with one of the girls, which girl was that? And where was everyone else then who was searching? Did they split part ways? And where else did they go? And why exactly? Was there any reasoning behind it? Furthermore, the timing of that supposed search would have been around 4 a.m. onwards, supposedly for 30 minutes for the Carter Combs and Logan Jernigan snap to make sense in regard to when they came back. But to be honest, I could actually put the argument across and say, well, if there were different search parties going in different areas, some could have gone out, some could have returned earlier than others. For example, Carter Logan returning at around 4:30 or just a bit before to take this snap, and anybody else out there searching could have come back 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later. Just as a rough example, that's all. So, yeah. And, oh God, I'll just close that down. 4:30, it's still before the 5:15 timeline of when Kaden said, I was woken up, and then I noticed that Mikey and Brylan have switched places. So as long as there's any events that happen before 5:15, they're on the table for possibilities that someone like Brylan and or Mikey could have been involved with, which then left a slot open for then Mikey to take advantage of a better sleeping spot. And why would Mikey be motivated to do that? Because he's sleeping on the floor. It's not that comfortable, is it? Wants a better place to sleep. Now, if that's the case, if Brylan did go searching and try and help, what made him do it? Was he already awake? Was he just resting? Did someone wake him up? And as for Mikey, if Mikey never went to sleep, is that because he just couldn't sleep? He didn't want to sleep because he was on a hard surface? Or what? Wasn't really bothered to sleep? Or those that witnessed him when people were about noticed he was awake. Then when people weren't about, he may have slept or rested. And then when people saw him again, he was awake. So they just assumed that he was always asleep. I guess it depends how you look at it. But, we don't know for definite. But it just goes to show that there are events in between in which Brylan or Mikey could have got involved with and they weren't suspicious. Both or one. And then it led the opportunity for Mikey to move about. Did Brylan return back to the floor to sleep? Well, based off Kaden's timeline, that appears to be the case. Okay. Just had to make do with it. I think that'll do for now. Don't want to go too far with it. You can let me know your thoughts down below. If you did find this video somewhat helpful and useful, be sure to hit the like button and share so more people get to see it. If you want to support the channel, PayPal link down below in the comments pinned. Want to watch the full videos playlist of this case, top right corner screen. I think one thing that was a success today was finally being able for the first time to attach photos to a map project. I'm just thinking now, all that could be done in the future when it comes to missing person cases. Yeah, you got satellite imagery, which is really good and important, but to be able to visually see it on ground level at the same time within the same video and project, that's even better, that. So we'll see how things go for the future, take it in mind. That's it for now. On the sideline though, we've got a couple of black belts, and I'm not actually talking about the type of black belts that I have, but we actually have trained professional black belts that have gone through the dojo, that have gone through extreme training over time to build up the ranks from a white belt to a black belt. And supposedly that applies to Michael Fay's Kaz as well. even Rebecca Gagliari, okay? So just as a heads up, any people that are going to act out or be on naughty behaviour in chat, whilst yes, you got the wrath of the whip, you're going to be possibly dealing with these individuals too, okay? So yeah, I've got to be careful around Rebecca. It's okay, she can grab my trunk. I mean, grab that vibrating device, right? Because they need it, they use it, okay? But can I just grab it? Can I pull it back and say, well, this is my property. You've stolen it. Give it back now. Now, if I reach out, what do you think is going to happen? I'm just going to hand it over. No, Rebecca is probably going to put me in a wrist lock, an arm lock, an ankle lock, a triangle stranglehold, all kinds of different maneuvers. Okay? Am I going to be able to breathe? I don't know. I might get like a flying kick or a roundhouse, whatever type of black belt maneuvers that Rebecca has. Okay? She's got all kinds of maneuvers up her sleeves. And she's sleeveless, man. Try and work that out. As for Michael Face, Kaz, Michael, if you want to share your tutorials down below to become the top black belt out there, feel free to do so. I've got a black belt here. I could wrap it around my head, but then it makes my hair look really bad, okay? So I'm a black belt in incompetence when it comes to martial arts. Again, so it's really high level activity, this. And, well, you could wear it around your head. My black belt is a bit too big, okay? So it's not like I can wrap it around myself. Well, actually, no, I can wrap it around myself, but not quite the same way as you probably think, okay? Where's it gone now? Yeah, man, black belt, you could probably wrap it around 2 times, okay? Okay, look at this. I look really professional, don't I? Look how trained martial arts in combat. Okay, so here's my black belt, okay? I know all the maneuvers, okay? Judo toss, hip toss, all different types of martial arts. So, Rebecca, do you approve of this black belt? Would you say it's legit? Yeah. Did I work through the ranks? Yeah. Okay, my shirt's white, but I'm not a white belt. No. All under control, okay? But do other people have it under control? I guess we'll see. Any tips, tricks, trips, whatever, tips, nips, oops, leave your comments below. My name's Warlike. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night for now.